What up, Win Daily family? Good morning. Happy Sunday. Ghost, how we feeling today? Week 9?
Looking good. I like this slate a lot. A lot of chalk points, a lot of leverage to be found. So I think we're going to smash this one. Really feeling good about this week.
All right. I love to hear that. We will wait for some folks to trickle in and let's get started. First game for me on my board is Carolina going to Kansas City. Kansas City's got a 30.5 implied team total. Carolina 20.5. Big time favorites for Kansas City. Who do you like? Who do you not like? What do you got here?
My favorite play in this game is actually Clyde Edwards-Helaire. In any other spot where people would not be scared of Lev Bell doing much, you absolutely attack this Carolina run defense. We've done it with God Turley. We've done it with a bunch of other running backs. I see no point to not do the same with a sub 5% owned Clyde Edwards-Helaire who is underpriced on both FanDuel and DraftKings. So I have a ton of CEH. I'm not too worried about Lev Bell given the light workload that he had against his former team there last week in a blowout game against the Jets. I thought if he was going to do anything, it would be last week. No signs of that. I'm completely off Lev Bell is going to steal some touches from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The draft capital expenses there for the Chiefs as well. Give me all the Clyde Edwards-Helaire that I can get. On the other side, not too much interest in these Panthers. The passing game is something that I guess is somewhat viable because of the amount of targets that they're going to get. They're going to be chasing points all game long. So if you do end up having some DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson, I can't blame you. I'm very underweight or probably going to be at 0% in my 150 max there. Christian McCaffrey, we do have the report that he will be splitting carries with Mike Davis. I'm not buying it that it's going to be a 50-50 split where it's literally one series, one running back, one series is going to be the other. Does cap his ceiling a little bit, but I still have a ton of interest in CMC sitting there. This is the cheapest that we'll ever get him, and coming in at probably under 5% owned on both DraftKings and FanDuel. It's a great leverage spot to get over a chalky Dalvin Cook. So in your single entries or 3 maxes, I probably wouldn't go there. But if you're making a ton of lines, definitely get some exposure to Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I think I'm out on Christian McCaffrey. I wanted to convince myself all week that I was in on him, but the props are they're so low. He's only got like 82 all-purpose yard prop. Obviously, that does not mean it's not the end-all be-all by any means, but there are just too many good running backs. They're good receivers on the slate that I want to get to. So Christian McCaffrey, as of this morning, is out of my player pool. So I'm just in on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm scared of that. I'm a little underweight on Mahomes, but if you have a lineup with Mahomes, Kelsey, Tyreek, whatever the case may be, or if you just play Mahomes by himself because he's just going to be so under-owned this week, I will never talk you off of that. These guys just are so electric on offense. Then for Carolina, you could play DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson if you want. It's a really tough matchup for opposing wide receivers with Kansas City. The way to beat them is through the ground, and you're probably not going to beat them anyway, but if McCaffrey split in time, I don't see why they wouldn't split sometime. Like, it definitely won't be 50-50 like you said, but it should be, 60-40. Like Mike Davis earned some playing time. And what was pretty interesting to see is the target share when Christian McCaffrey was healthy was like 5% less than when he was gone, to the running back position, that is. So it seems like they threw to Mike Davis more than they did to McCaffrey. Maybe that was just this new Matt Rule offense coming in and they didn't really realize how special McCaffrey is out of the backfield as a pass catcher. Whatever the case may be, I'm just out on that. I don't like this game a ton, but it's hard to not always love, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey, especially this year, man. Tight end is just such a shit show. And he's just I think he's like wide receiver 2 or 3. If you combine tight ends and wide receivers for PPR leaders, I think Kelsey's top 3. So there's just nobody with the highest, a floor as high as Travis Kelsey. So if you could put him in there, I think that's as safe as it gets, especially for cash. But my cash build, I just don't have the money for him. Moving on to the shootout, everybody's favorite game. Josh Allen now projected at 15% ownership. Russell Wilson right around 12. So this is where the majority of the field is going to their quarterback spot. And for good reason, both these guys run. I think the rushing props are right around 20 yards for Russell Wilson. Josh Allen, I didn't see his, but I'm sure it's higher than that. Dude hasn't thrown a touchdown since week 6. If there's any get-right spot, Ghost, it has to be against this Seattle secondary. Am I right or am I right?
Absolutely. You are right. So some bad weather conditions too in the past couple games that Josh Allen has been playing. Can't discredit what he did throughout the first 4 or 5 weeks in the season. So I am a Josh Allen truther. Absolutely love the guy. Extremely talented. I think Diggs is going to get his today, but at the same time, you could kind of play the script where Buffalo wants to keep Russell Wilson. Definitely my favorite for MVP this year. You got to keep him off the field. So I suspect that they're going to run the ball a lot. Their running game isn't all that good. I mean, I do prefer Zach Moss over Devin Singletary, that's for sure. But I'm expecting a lot of short passes here too from Josh Allen. I understand that you can get them on the deep ball with Stephon Diggs, but with Jamal Adams back there, I think their depleted secondary now becomes a lot better. Granted that it's still one of the worst in football, but having a playmaker like Jamal Adams back there definitely helps out their cornerbacks in some 2-on-1 coverage. And John Brown has pretty much become, I don't want to say irrelevant in this offense, but he's looking like he's still dealing with some nagging injuries there. So having Stephon Diggs out there, possibly getting a 2-on-1 matchup with Jamal Adams, kind of takes me off him a little bit. He's still one of the best plays on the slate, don't get me wrong, but when I say come off him a little bit, it's more so from an ownership standpoint. Coming in over 20% owned, he's really expensive. You have guys like Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen that are all cheaper than him on DraftKings. So if you're going for a game stack, I do understand the appeal there with Stephon Diggs, but again, Jamal Adams definitely helps out Seattle be able to defend the deep ball. On the Seattle side, give me Lockett over Metcalf today. I am planting my flag there, and having 0% DK Metcalf in 150 max scares the living crap out of me. But at the same time, having Trey White be able to guard him is something that I think is definitely feasible. He's arguably a top 5 corner in the game. Granted, not having a defensive player of the year candidate kind of season so far, but Trey White can definitely match up against DK Metcalf. On the other side, if you want to play devil's advocate, DK Metcalf leads the leagues in receptions and yards in one-on-one coverage. So you can argue either side, but I'm planting my flag here and taking Tyler Lockett all day long against our boy Teron Johnson. Love that matchup in the slot for him.
All right, so DJ Moore as honorable mention. I mean, personally, Jimmy, I just moved off DJ Moore due to other values that opened up. I think now that Golden Tate's out, Sterling Shepard in the slot is a really, really good matchup. His player props hit the roof. I just don't see a whole lot for DJ Moore. His catches 4.5, juice is on the over there, yards under 60. So I'd rather go pay down at other positions for them, or at the wide receiver position, and move up to, guys like Diggs or Julio, like Ghost just talked about. But my thoughts on this game: give me all the Tyler Lockett I could possibly get against Teron Johnson. I know Tyler Lockett's extremely, extremely chalky, but it's a really good week for that. I think in cash, if you don't have Russell Wilson, you probably want to find a way to get Lockett. I don't think you have to. Just get some sort of exposure to this game, whether that's just Josh Allen or getting Stephon Diggs in there. I think you want to have a key playmaker in this game in your cash lineup because it does have the highest total on the slate. I was all in on DJ Dallas early. I still think I'm halfway in. I'm definitely not going to fade him. I don't expect much from him, but at 5K, it's a pretty good value. But you probably should just go down to Justin Jackson for the Los Angeles Chargers at that price point, or Zeke Elliott's going to play. And I was going to say Tony Pollard value was opening up last night, but it sounds like Zeke's good to go. Alex Collins is active for the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think we've seen that dude play in years, but man, he was fun to watch in Baltimore. He just ran so damn hard, just laid people out. He's not even available on the DraftKings slate, so you can't play him. But man, I think the hardest decision for me this week personally is Diggs or Julio. And everything is pointing to Julio for me. Denver's going to play zone coverage. So, sure, that may limit a 60-yard bomb to Julio Jones, but this dude's going to get like 8 or 9 catches, if not more, in zone coverage. What's your call? Julio or Diggs? And no one's playing Julio. Well, people are playing Julio, but everybody's just going to Diggs in that, like you said. It's Diggs at a similar price range on 7,400 on DraftKings. Julio 72. Julio Jones has a 7-catch prop. He's get this. Julio Jones is minus 110 to score. They got him as a favorite to score a touchdown. What a time to be alive. Is Ridley out? Does anybody know? Is that confirmed? I knew he was doubtful last night, but I'm assuming he's out. I think Julio's my guy. What do you think, Ghost?
Julio all day for me. I understand the appeal of a guy like Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 1 for Josh Allen right now, especially with John Brown going down with multiple injuries. I can't do it. I can't foresee myself paying $7,400 for a guy like Stephon Diggs when you have the best wide receiver in football, or arguably the best wide receiver in football, $200 cheaper in a matchup without Calvin Ridley there on the other side stealing targets from him. Give me Julio, give me Keenan Allen, give me Tyler Lockett all day over Stephon Diggs.
All right, what do you got for this combo from David? David, we got to change your logo, man. It's becoming a White Sox city here in Chicago. Need you to get on board, even though our coach is 80 years old. But story for another day. Julio, Diggs, Judy, or Lockett, Diggs, Judy? I think Julio.
I'm going to throw a third option in there and go Julio, Lockett, Judy.
How the hell do you afford that? You got to play Justin Jackson and probably DJ Dallas, and I don't know. Oh no, David Johnson's really cheap too. I know Jay's really high on David Johnson.
Diggs is more expensive than Julio, so you could go Lockett, Julio, and Judy in there. The only difference in that pairing is you're basically asking Julio versus Lockett. So that's a toss up. I do like Julio, but I think Lockett smashes today. But I would just combine both of them. Go Julio with Lockett, and then go Judy. Let Diggs be the odd man out there.
All right. How about Cole Beasley? John Deere. Harvest season is officially over, I believe, in the Midwest, or just about. So John Deere's got time, and he needs help on Cole Beasley. What are your thoughts on Cole Beasley? I'm never a Cole Beasley guy, but I swear anytime that you mention Cole Beasley having a good game, he does it. So you're the Cole Beasley truther.
Look, I could see him getting a pot there. 5,400 is a little expensive for my liking on DraftKings, but outside of the game against New England last week, he scored 10 DraftKings points in every single week. He's very similar to what Randall Cobb was doing when he was in Green Bay, just constant little slot passes there. And I really do think that if you're playing the angle like I am, where Stephon Diggs kind of gets somewhat limited on the deep ball with Jamal Adams back, then Cole Beasley should be getting a ton of targets over the middle. So at 5,400, you could definitely do a lot worse, but there's some other interesting guys that are there. You know, Christian Kirk is sitting there at 5,300 and a couple other wide receivers. But yeah, I'm okay with some Cole Beasley exposure today. I don't think he's going to be able to replicate his 25 DraftKings points that he got against the Jets, but somewhere in the 12 to 15 range is definitely feasible for him.
Yeah, it's a really good matchup, especially if Seattle's scoring like they do every single week. It's a good spot to play Cole Beasley. Any love for Josh Allen was a question. Absolutely. I think, Marky Mark and the boys. I think this is a great spot for Josh Allen. I'm interested to see how Seattle's defense comes back and plays this week because they started the game on fire. But that was a Jimmy Garoppolo incompetent San Francisco offense that none of us saw coming. But if you did see it coming, good for you, because you probably made money last week, because I had way too much Jimmy Garoppolo, and I hate paying down a quarterback. Moving on to Denver, Atlanta, another game I have a ton of interest in. Obviously, the elephant in the room here is if you're paying down for quarterback, it's got to be Drew Lock, right? Like, that is the only value at the position. You're not going to play Jake Luton, even though this dude's got a hose. I'm excited to see Luton just throw one, but he can't move. Either I don't know why we're talking about Jake Luton, but Drew Lock, you in, you out? What are we doing?
I'm out. It's not really a recency bias thing over us getting burned by Jimmy G like half the industry did there, but it's more so just that there's plenty of value at both the running back and wide receiver positions that I can constantly find myself not only getting up to Justin Herbert or Josh Allen or Deshaun Watson in that 7,000 range on DraftKings, but so a lot of my lineups end up having Russell Wilson or Kyler Murray in them. So if I could go all the way up to quarterback plus love a lot of my players in the skill position, I don't really see a point for me to be able to have too much exposure to Drew Lock. But at the same time, if there's ever a good spot for a $5,200 quarterback, it's probably right here against this funnel of a defense that Atlanta calls themselves. But ever since Quinn has gotten canned, they have looked slightly better. So you could definitely play that angle too. But definitely a lot of interest in Jerry Jeudy and Julio Jones here, Alabama wide receivers. I really think Jerry Judy's route running is going to be on display here. He could definitely take advantage of their cornerbacks, and he's a guy that's an elite route runner, highly touted prospect coming out of Alabama. They said he was the best ever since former Alabama wide receiver Julio Jones, right? So you have both of them playing in the same game. Julio was somewhat mentoring him when he was at Alabama. You have a kind of a narrative there if you like to play into that pool. Other than that, Hayden Hurst is somebody that really interests me too.
Hell yeah, Hayden Hurst. I'm on him every single week, and he's starting to come on. So that's what I like. Without Ridley, it's certainly going to open up a ton of targets for Julio Jones and guys like Russell Gage and was it Blake Powell's the other guy, or Brandon Powell, sorry, and then who was that dude we played earlier in the year? Zacchaeus? Yeah, and Christian Blake's the other guy. I would never go down that low. I think it's just going to be Julio Jones and Hayden Hurst for me for my Atlanta exposure. I'm not touching Todd Gurley. This is a tough matchup for running backs. I'm likely not touching the timeshare of Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, but if you want to, I won't talk you off of it. There's certainly a ton of touchdown equity in this game, especially, even for a guy like Todd Gurley too, as I say that. But Jerry Jeudy, absolutely Julian. Play that dude in cash. I think it's one of my core plays this week. What is he, 4,600 on DraftKings? That's way too cheap. And like Go said, this dude is an elite route runner. I think he's already in the top 10 in the NFL in routes running for me, just how skillful he is. He just gets open no matter what he does. It reminds me a lot of Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is probably a little bit more of a burner too, but dude, when you watch Diggs run routes, it just, he stops on a dime. It's a lot of fun, and Jeudy reminds me a lot of him. Julio Jones, I think, is my top wide receiver play on the board. Already said that. Hayden Hurst, I think, is perfect for GPPs. And I think in almost every single lineup that I have on a GPP side, I either have Noah Fant or Jerry Jeudy. With Jerry Jeudy, I run it back with either Julio or Hayden Hurst. With Noah Fant, I'm just running it back with Julio on the other side. I want exposure to each offense in this game, no matter what my lineup build is. If it's a heavy Seattle-Buffalo stack, it's likely going to be Jerry Jeudy and Hayden Hurst for my mini stack because Buffalo and Seattle cost so damn much to get to them. And then, if you want to use Drew Lock and double stack it with Font and Jeudy and run it back with Julio Jones, I think that's perfect too. It's just, do you trust a young quarterback in Drew Lock? It seems like he's getting his groove a little bit. He's a pretty confident player. You see him out there. He's kind of got a little Aaron Rodgers to him with his attitude, but certainly does not have the awareness on the football field like Aaron Rodgers does. But yeah, that's going to be a fun game. There's likely little to no defense at all. AJ Bouye is out. Another reason, again, wheels up Julio. And let's move on. Baltimore, Indianapolis. Lamar Jackson, pretty much 0% owned today. You have any interest? He's in my player pool. I have a good bit of him. I think I only have 5 quarterbacks in my pool, and he was number 5. It was between him or Mahomes. I chose Lamar. Scares the shit out of me. But Mark Andrews is 4,800. It's a very tough matchup against Indy, and obviously Baltimore's offensive line took a big hit when Staley, however you pronounce his last name, guy that they just re-signed or extended, probably their best offensive lineman, he's out. So I don't know. But I think Hollywood Brown scores a deep touchdown. Finally, this week it should happen against Rock Ya-Sin or Xavier Rhodes. If he gets on Rhodes, he is going to absolutely burn him like I burn toast when I don't know where I'm fucking going with that son of a bitch. But you get it, right? All right. I'm not as fast as I once was this morning. But yeah, what do you think about this game? I'm off every single player on Indy. Maybe a little bit of Naeem Hines. That's it.
I'm not touching a single Indy player, definitely not with Phillip Rivers' noodle arm out there. So hard pass on any Indy skill position player. I have a ton of Lamar Jackson in MME. Definitely not hard to get over the field when he's coming in at 1% owned on roughly both sides. So $6,900 Lamar Jackson. What a time. Wow. Give me all the Lamar to Hollywood Brown. And the best thing about Week 9 NFL is that you have a bunch of players that are either mad about usage or they're going to be mad about usage, or guys that are disgruntled because they were traded or not traded, etc. Hollywood Brown publicly expressed that frustration last week when he had a single catch, and Lamar has pretty much said, you know what, I will get him the ball this week. Wheels up on Hollywood Brown, absolutely torching Xavier Rhodes this week. I think he goes over 100 yards and a touchdown. And at 6,000 on DraftKings, he will be roughly unowned. At 5,800, I believe, or 5,900 on FanDuel. I have so much Hollywood Brown that's there. Yeah. He's way too cheap out there. At 6,000 on DraftKings, I don't even think this guy's going to touch 5% ownership. 100 yards and a touchdown for Hollywood Brown this week. Book it. Ravens steal this game.
All right, let's ride. I'm going to move on. There's too many good games. Houston at Jacksonville. Jacksonville dead last in pass defense DVOA against the pass. They're also bad against the run. This is a very good spot for David Johnson. Vegas books absolutely love David Johnson today. 72 rush yards, or 73 this morning, I think. So people are betting the over on him. My model says the under, but I'm not going to fuck with it now if everybody's on him. But 2.5 catch prop, I think juice is on the over there. David Johnson minus 155 to score. I don't think we've seen that all year. So it's David Johnson week, apparently. Do you have any love for Deshaun Watson? He's coming in about 12% ownership, so I think he's third on the board as the field's favorite behind Josh Allen and Russell Wilson. I just prefer Deshaun Watson when he's in the dome at home, and I really, really worry about Jacksonville's offense today with Jake Luton. Like, how do they score? How do they keep this game close? I love James Robinson this week for GPPs. You don't need to play him in cash, but man, watching Luton play at Oregon State, I'm not saying this guy's good or anything, but they do run a pro-style offense, a lot of play action. He goes under center. He dumps the ball down to running backs all the time. I feel like a rookie quarterback today against a solid defensive line in Houston, James Robinson should be busy. I think this is a really good spot for him. What do you think here?
I do like Deshaun Watson this week. I don't think he's going to be the highest scoring quarterback on the board, where he touches 35 points like he did against Tennessee, where he ended up throwing for, I think, over 350 and 4 touchdowns, something like that. But I do like Deshaun Watson. You can absolutely torch this Jacksonville secondary. And my main concern there is that where I do have Deshaun Watson, I'm just pairing him with Will Fuller. I don't really have many people running it back. I do have some lineups with Laviska, but that's about it. I'm really concerned about their offense, and the Texans defense is absolutely terrible. So playing James Robinson is somewhat viable, even if they are chasing points. I could definitely get behind James Robinson at 7,000 on DraftKings. I don't really think this guy's going to be highly owned. I think he's definitely going to come under 10%, especially with the value that we have in Justin Jackson and DJ Dallas there. So, give me James Robinson. I have maybe 1 or 2% Laviska just in case, but it's Watson to Will Fuller all day. Will Fuller, again, somebody that was expecting to be getting traded to the Packers, and Aaron Rodgers, of course. That did not happen. I think Deshaun Watson absolutely force feeds this guy the ball. I think it's going to be a really big Will Fuller day. And Deshaun Watson reminds him that, hey, you know what? You don't need to play for Aaron Rodgers. I myself and I'm still a top 5 quarterback in this league. So I really think Watson ends up force feeding the ball to Will Fuller here and forces him to have a big day.
All right. Well, not many people are on Will Fuller this week, so I think that's a pretty good GPP play. You could definitely stack it with Brandon Cooks, too, if you wanted to use Fuller and Cooks. I think that's a really good spot. If you're going to stack this game, if you think it's going to be up pace, I would run it back with James Robinson for sure on the other side of Houston. I think it's a great spot for him. And then in lineups, you're not using Deshaun Watson and this Houston passing attack. I think David Johnson on DraftKings, especially at 5,600, is an extreme value for an RB1 who's likely going to get 75% of the snaps. You cannot say that about many guys in this price range under 6K on DraftKings. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 6,100. He is going to split snaps. You go down to 5,600 for David Johnson. That's just extreme value. I absolutely love that. Moving on, Detroit, Minneapolis, Minnesota Vikings. Does Dalvin Cook do it again? Tip of the cap to you, man. Last week, you were all on Dalvin Cook. You're the only reason I got on him.
Thank you.
Not in any of my main lineups or anything like that, but he saved my ass when my main lineups just shit the bed with Jimmy Garoppolo. What are your thoughts on this game? I think this is a great spot for Stafford. I'm not going to play him just because I don't play him when Galladay's healthy, so I'm not going to play him with Galladay out. But, man, Marvin Jones is probably in every single lineup that I have. I have no idea why his ownership is so low. I think literally every cornerback for Minnesota is out this week. Holden Hill's out. I think Cam Dancer's out, and I just wrote about how Marvin Jones was going to put him in the blender. But what are your thoughts? I'm going to look up this Lions injury report.
Yes, it's exact same page with Stafford there. I don't play him when he's healthy, and when Galladay's healthy, I certainly don't play him when he possibly has COVID, and I certainly don't play him when Galladay's out. So no Stafford for me, but give me all the Marvin Jones.
Everybody's out. Mark Fields is out. Holton Hill, Cam Dancer. That is 3 cornerbacks, 3 of the worst in the NFL, who were starters for Minnesota, are out. Like, is your phone ringing? Are they asking you to come in and play corner today? Like, what are they going to do?
But I don't know why Marvin Jones is completely underowned. I mean, I get that a lot of people are paying up for wide receiver and end up going value at running back, and somehow Dalvin Cook is also highly owned. But we're talking about some elite running backs here that are going to be having some low ownership because everybody's paying up at wide receiver. For me, it's get Marvin Jones in your lineup at 5,100. I don't see how this guy doesn't go at least 3 times his value, probably at least 4. Granted that he doesn't run too many deep routes, but the touchdown equity is by far the highest on this team right now, given that their backfield is an absolute mess between Adrian Peterson and DeAndre Swift and who knows who else. Patricia loves to absolutely get 4 or 5 running backs involved, so definitely not touching that backfield as usual. But yeah, give me all the Marvin Jones that we can get here. I'm 100% behind you on this one. I don't see how he doesn't go 3 or 4 times his value. Absolutely love the spot for him.
How is he 10% owned? I would have thought like 40 if I were just to guess. It doesn't make any sense. It's the best matchup for opposing wide receivers right now.
When Galladay got ruled out, we both said, like, okay, it's Marvin Jones chalk week. He's going to be 35% owned.
I don't get it. I think that is the best mini stack in DFS this week is Dalvin Cook and running it back on the other side with Marvin Jones. I don't think Dalvin Cook is a must play this week at 30% ownership. I think you can go to, if you're playing Dalvin Cook, it's going to be very hard to play James Conner and Chase Edmonds, who are the other 2 top running backs in ownership this week. So I think one of them's got to be the odd man out, but I think Dalvin Cook and Marvin Jones, man, that is just such a great little pairing in this game, who also there's going to be just little to no defense at all. I think if you want to get leverage off of Dalvin Cook chalk, you could certainly play Adam Thielen or Justin Jefferson. They are in a very good spot as well because Detroit's secondary is very bad. So I'm going to have a lot of Thielen and Jefferson. I think I'm going to be underweight on Dalvin Cook just because I think this is a really good – I mean, you could play Kirk Cousins. If you're crazy, I think Stobie is in on Kirk Cousins. One of our guys from Win Daily was talking to me about it.
I know Rocker. I know Rocker has him on the sheet, so
let's go. I think that's a great double stack with Thielen and Justin Jefferson, and just pray Dalvin Cook doesn't do all the damage on the ground, but run it back with Marvin Jones, man. He's a core play for me. Cash, GPP, Marvin Jones will be in likely every single lineup that I have. It's just too cheap, and it's such a good spot. If he duds out, I don't know, but moving on. Hawkins is in a great spot too. Also, I think if you play Stafford, I'm not going to do it, but if you're crazy enough to do it, it is a really good matchup. Like we just said, all the corners are out. You could double stack Hawkinson and Marvin Jones, and that's pretty cheap right there yourself. So you can definitely afford Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen or Jefferson. If you want a full-on game stack this one, I think you could certainly do it. You got any other thoughts on this game?
I do like the leverage of playing one of Jefferson or Thielen and fading Cook in GPPs or at least in the large field tournaments. Dal Cook absolutely stole the show last week. So I really think Cousins gets his boys going here. And even though Jair Alexander was all over Justin Jefferson, which was weird because usually Jefferson runs over 27% of his snaps in the slot. So for some reason, they kept making him run routes on the outside and having Thielen in the slot. And both of them ended up doing really bad in that game. And it was just the Dalvin Cook show. But I really think Cousins gets the boys going here. Both Justin Jefferson and Thielen are coming in under owned for this spot against a Detroit defense you could absolutely torch. So yeah, definitely a lot of interest in there. And you got to play Dalvin Cook in cash. 30, 35, 40% owned. It's hard to fade there, or at least on FanDuel. On DraftKings, you could make the argument of going Edmonds, Connor, and then someone like Justin Jackson to be able to get better wide receivers. But for the FanDuel players out there, just make sure you're locking in Dalvin Cook and cash.
That is my lineup right there. I moved off Cook and cash this morning for Connor and Edmonds so I can get Julio in there and Josh Allen for my exposure to that game. I don't know what to do. I'm going to be tinkering with this the whole last hour of the day before kickoff. J.K. Dobbins against Colt Steve. We missed this question. I'm not necessarily on it at all, but at 4,900 on DraftKings, it's pretty cheap, but it's not for me. Tough matchup. I'd rather go to Justin Jackson. Favorite RB around 5,700 and under. For me, it's going to be easily David Johnson and Justin Jackson if you need to go even lower. You cool with that, Ghost? Same thing?
Yeah, Justin Jackson over DJ for me. And if you can somehow find a way to get the CEH at 6,100, definitely try and do that.
Ooh, that's a good question. Sterling Shepard or Deontay Johnson? I love Sterling Shepard this week. We're getting into this game right now. Deontay Johnson is such a good spot there too against Dallas, but I just don't see Dallas keeping the pace in that game. So Shepard should be busy all game long. Golden Tate was complaining about his workload for the Giants. They put him on the practice squad this week, so he was running with the scout team, which I think is just hilarious. Kind of a dickhead move by Joe Judge to do that to a veteran like Golden Tate, who has 2 touchdowns in the last 2 games, but whatever. Is Mark Andrews hurt? Yeah, he is so damn cheap, Theo. I don't know. Is he hurt? Because something's going on there. He's due for a breakout, but this is a really tough matchup for him. Houston defense against a rookie QB, absolutely. We usually don't talk about defense too much. I think everybody's got a pretty good read on who's a good defense. I think absolutely, though, Houston against that rookie quarterback, probably as safe as it gets. And they're pretty cheap. I think they're only 3,100 on DraftKings. Marv's from my high school. He's going to have a field day. Let's go, Brian. All right. Marv season. I need to get a Marvin Jones jersey then. Let's just go all in today. Swift or Peterson? I would say neither, but if it's a season-long question, Swift, right? You got to play Swift in an up-paced game.
If it's season-long, go Swift. If it's DFS, I'm not touching any of them with a 10-foot pole today. No chance.
Yeah. Even if Cook doesn't run wild, Kirk Cousins and Thielen and Justin Jefferson Minnesota's going to score. They are number 2 on the adjusted expected teams total tool, which that thing hasn't missed yet. If you're stacking up Minnesota, that's the one thing that put Kirk Cousins into play for me. I won't have him because I just don't have the balls to do it, but the model likes them to score a lot. So that's why, to me, I'm just like, all right, I don't need to worry about Kirk Cousins because I'm just going to get my exposure through that game being a shootout through Marvin Jones. Rather play Edmonds over Cook. Yeah, I'm with you. I'd rather play Cook, but he's just so damn expensive. Oh, God, no. Daniel Jones. All right, we're getting a Daniel Jones chalk. Ridley's out. Let's go. Thank you for that. Anyone fading Cook in GPP? I think, yeah, we'll have some lineups that fade him for sure. My main lineup is likely not going to have him just because I can't afford him because Julio Jones is such a core play for me. So, yeah, I don't know. Are you all in on Dalvin Cook and GPPs or no? It seems like you were kind of with me there, but don't let me talk you in.
Last week, I was all over it. I had over 60% in my MME and definitely punted my flag there. Worked out great, but fortunately, a lot of them were paired with Jimmy G, so that was fun. Week, I don't want to say I'm doing the complete opposite, but I am slightly underweight compared to the field. He's coming in. Right now, we have him projected for around 32, 33%. I think he probably gets up to 35, probably approaching 40. So I'll probably have half of that. I'll probably have 20% Dal Cook and a lot of Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen to compensate for that.
Let's go. Don't feel bad for Tate, Brian says. I like Brian. Good guy. Jordan Howard season. Oh, please don't do that. Stop. GPP. Justin Jackson or DJ Dallas? For me, Jackson, I'm going, Jackson. I do like Dallas too, though, because I think a really good mini sack is DJ Dallas and Stephon Diggs, but don't expect a lot out of DJ Dallas. Oh, man, the Cubs guy's back. Connor DJ or Edmonds DJ?
Oof.
You could get all 3, but you're likely paying up for wide receiver, which I like. I love that build, Dave. I don't know. Chase Edmonds, let's see, he's minus 170 to score, 98 all-purpose yards. James Conner, 100 all-purpose yards, minus 225 to score. I mean, Benny Snell didn't get a carry last week, so I think they just got to run James Conner into the ground. But if they're up 30-0, that's like my question with playing Conner. It's like, all right, if they're up 30-0 at halftime, how did they get there? Is it 2 touchdowns from James Conner, so it doesn't matter what happens in the second half, or is it Big Ben in this passing game? So if you know a good feel for how that game's going to go, I think that should answer your question. But I think Edmonds is just going to be busy all game long. It's a tighter spread. Miami's defense is absolutely terrible against the run, but so is Dallas. I mean, that's a tough question, dude. I think everybody in the world has that same question right now. Julio Texans or Lockett Washington GPP? I don't like to evaluate defense in my lineup. I just try to get the best players I can in that lineup in the correlation, but I would go with Julio, right? I think we're
Yeah.
team Julio today.
Yeah, I don't really make my lineups based on a defense or at least consider a pivot based on that. So Julio over Lockett means you go Julio and Texans there.
Cool. All right. New York, Washington, both these quarterbacks out of my player pool. I'm usually all about Antonio Gibson, but I'm going to be off him this week. It's not a great matchup against New York. Their defense actually looked pretty solid against Tampa Bay. I knew they gave up a lot of points, but I think this defense is in for a very solid spot here against Kyle Allen. If you have any love for anybody in this game, I think my guy is going to be Sterling Shepard. Landon Collins is out. He's the safety that usually helps with the tight end coverage, and just the slot in general. So Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, I think that's where I'd want to go. I'm out on Slayton. Unfortunately, I'm out on Terry McLaurin. I missed when Terry McLaurin was 5,800 every single week. Now he's 6,500. There's so many other games that I want to get exposure to. So if anything, I'm going with Sterling Shepard. He's got like 19 targets in 2 games, and that was with Golden Tate in there. Now Tate's out. Shepard should work exclusively out of the slot. And that's just a really good matchup against Washington right now. And Sterling Shepard's such a good route runner. I think it's Jimmy Moreland. Is he still healthy? I think he's the slot corner for Washington. That he's usually like a top 10 matchup for me, a guy to pick on. So I need to look into that. If anybody from Washington hears Jimmy Moreland still playing, because he's pretty bad. He's no Teron Johnson, but he is bad. What do you like here? Anything at all? I saw the props this morning once Golden Tate was ruled out for Sterling Shepard. He's at 4.5. Juices on the over, and he's close to even money to score. So he's 285. Never mind. I'm looking at TJ Hawkinson. Sorry, folks. But yeah, the props are there. 55 receiving yards. I like the over on everything for Sterling Shepard today.
Yeah, definitely have some interest in Shepard. 18 targets in the past 2 weeks. Now he gets to work exclusively out of the slot, exactly like what you said. And any wide receiver that's not going up against Kendall Fuller on this Washington defense is the guy that I have more interest in. So Slayton is a hard pass for me today. Shep over the middle. And am I gonna die on this Evan Engram hill all season long? But he's
really getting
cheap.
Work too, man. He's getting work.
He's really cheap. And again, you got to avoid Kendall Fuller on this Washington defense. So 19 targets for him in the past 2 weeks. I'm hoping that they just end up force feeding him the ball along with Shepard there. So Shep over Evan Engram for me, but I can't blame you if you end up paying a $4,300 Evan Engram, although we do prefer Hurst. But there's a 15% difference in ownership there. So Engram at 4,300 definitely deserves at least some love in your 150 maxes. No Antonio Gibson for me this week, unfortunately. Tough matchup against Washington's D, and J.D. McKissick just refuses to go away. So not this week for me. I'm out, and I did force some Scary Terry into my lineups, but 6,500 is definitely a pretty penny to pay. He's right up there in that range with Tyler Lockett, and only a couple $100 more, you end up getting a Julio and Keenan Allen and stuff like that. So definitely do miss the weeks where we were playing Terry McLaurin at 55, 56 on DraftKings. That was a fun time, but at 6,500, I'm definitely going to be underweight.
I'm with you. This is a good question by Pablo. Would you drop down to Logan Thomas to get Herbert at quarterback? I'm assuming the rest of your lineup is awesome if you wanted to post what it is, or just maybe a couple of core guys in there. You don't need to post a whole lineup or anything like that. I'm okay if you go down to Logan Thomas if he is like by far the worst player in your build, and it's just to afford a higher ceiling quarterback like Justin Herbert this week. I would go with yes, but again, that's with limited knowledge on what your lineup looks like. I'm assuming if he's like your only punt play, you're not going down to Darnell Mooney or something in cash and Logan Thomas, then yeah, I think you could definitely go down to Logan Thomas. Pray he just gets 3 or 4 catches for 30, 40 yards. He'll hit value. If he gets in the end zone, your cash game is probably good to go, assuming the rest of that lineup is sexy. Yeah, Brian, I literally all I do is watch. When I rewatch games, it's just cornerbacks and wide receivers. And yeah, Jimmy Moreland's on my list, but again, I don't know if he's even still on the team. I think he is. But yeah, that dude sucks. Marvin Hall or Darnell Mooney? I like Mooney, man. I think Adoree Jackson's back. The question is Malcolm Butler going to shadow Allen Robinson? either way, Malcolm Butler cannot play shadow coverage against good route running and good speed wide receivers. Allen Robinson's not necessarily that fast, but I would love Darnell Mooney to get a crack at Malcolm Butler because he will burn him into next year, if that's even a thing. That doesn't make any sense. But I think Mooney's a really good punt option here at 3,900. But yeah, I think Adoree Jackson's back. They just traded for Desmond King from the Chargers, so that's good news for anybody that likes Hunter Renfrow or Darren Waller. But Tennessee has no pass rush at all. Clowney, I believe, is out. I know the Bears have absolutely no pass protection with like their whole offensive line has COVID, I guess. So I don't even, maybe Ghost is playing. He's either playing corner for Minnesota today or he's getting the call to go play offensive line for the Bears.
I'll take corner for Minnesota.
Yeah, you can't do, don't want to, I don't know what the hell I'm saying. But I like Mooney. I think Mooney's my guy here. Marvin Hall's in another good spot, though, too. I think that's a game I'd rather get exposure to. But I think this Chicago-Tennessee game could get a little out of hand on both sides. Both these defenses suck. I think it's a really good game. I think we're on that game right now. We sure are. Both quarterbacks for me are out. I'm not playing Tannehill. The Bears' secondary is actually very solid. They're pretty stingy against opposing quarterbacks. Derrick Henry, though. 8 to 10% Derrick Henry. I'm in. That is my favorite GPP running back is Derrick Henry, and then I love running it back on the other side with Allen Robinson. That is expensive, but if you go down to Justin Jackson or Marvin Jones for me is in every lineup. Like it does offer a lot of salary relief. You can play Jerry Jeudy with Hurst for some salary relief and game stack correlation, but Derrick Henry against the Bears, Roy Robertson Harris, one of the better run stoppers for Chicago, is out. And you could run on Chicago with him anyway. I think Derrick Henry goes wild today. What is his player prop? It's got to be through the roof. But Ghost, any thoughts on this game? To me, it's just Allen Robinson and Henry. And then if I have to, I'm going to play Darnell Mooney just because I think at 3,900, it depends on what the rest of my lineup looks like, obviously. But if I need salary relief, I'm going to him. Henry minus 240 to score, 103 all-purpose yards. Dalvin Cook has more all-purpose yards and better odds to score than Derrick Henry today. Holy shit. Give me Derrick Henry. Come on. What do you like, though? I'm out on David Montgomery. Yes, he's cheap, but I'd rather go to David Johnson if I'm playing for a running back at that position or at that spot.
Can I just hit the retweet button, or is that a thing?
Sure. We can move on to the next game.
Give me all the Derrick Henry, bro. Last week was Cook over Henry for me. Henry was coming in roughly 30% owned. Dalvin Cook came in. Ended up touching 9.75% in the big tournament. This week, Dalvin Cook is projected for 30% ownership. Derrick Henry is projected for 9.7. You could run all over this Chicago defense, exactly what you said. We're approaching Thanksgiving. November, December is Derrick Henry month. I have so much Derrick Henry. I think I'm going to be 2-1 to Dalvin Cook. So if I end up with roughly 20% Dalvin Cook, I'm going to probably aim to have 40% Derrick Henry.
Perfect. If you're building one lineup, I know like that's something I really want to help the field with is not everybody plays 150 lineups, and you probably shouldn't until you start crushing single entry. Would you go, so single entry, you have one GPP bullet to shoot today. You go in with Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry?
Probably neither, to be honest with you.
That's also a good answer too.
I prefer. I rather lock in some wide receivers, especially if it means you're fading both of them to get Julio, Lockett, or both in your lineup. That would be my option. So I'm going to go with create an option and option letter C there. But
take it the road less
one of the two, I will take. I'll take Dalvin Cook in single entry, but probably end up with neither, to be honest with you. If I'm building a single entry bullet, probably neither.
All right. I like that because then you can go a lot of different ways. You can get Lockett, Julio Jones, and get Connor and Edmonds and Justin Jackson in a single entry build. That's a hint of something I'm doing right now. All right, Pablo, you asked about Logan Thomas earlier. Is there any way you can get to Jonnu Smith at 3,900? I never talk about Jonnu Smith, but this is such a low price point, and Adam Humphries is out, and the Bears just absolutely suck against covering tight ends. I know last week, if you watched it, Jared Cook did whatever he wanted on the inside of that field, which was terrible game plan by the Bears because Drew Brees cannot throw the ball more than 20 yards in the air. but yet they left the middle of the field wide open for, Taysom Hill when he kind of lined up. I guess he wasn't necessarily a tight end on that play that he scored that post route on. And then Jared Cook, same exact thing. That was from the tight end position. He ran a post route and scored. Jonnu Smith, I think I would much rather you go Jonnu over Logan Thomas today. If there's any way, Pablo, if you got 200 extra bucks, maybe kick your defense down a bit in cash and DraftKings. Yeah, I'd rather go to Jonnu Smith. You with that as well? I think that's a punt play for me, Jonnu. I think that's really good salary relief and touchdown equities through the roof. If you need to flex Jonnu Smith to go double tight end, if the rest of your lineup's awesome with those upside receivers and running backs, I think Jonnu's in a really good spot here with Humphreys out. Moving on, my favorite game, I think, Las Vegas Raiders, Los Angeles Chargers. I believe this game is now moved to Vegas -1. This is good. Keenan Allen's in. We love Justin Jackson. I absolutely love Justin Herbert. I think that's my favorite quarterback play on the board this week in terms of, GPP. You could use him in cash too. Like, the dude's just so safe. Vegas Raiders defense, I think, is like 31st overall in terms of DVOA. Let's see. Yeah, they are the second worst overall defense in terms of efficiency and terrible against the run and bad against the pass. Really bad against the pass, but worse against the run. So, everybody should have a field day. My favorite 0% owned player this week, Mike Williams, scores a 45-yard touchdown, gets 100 yards. I'm locking that in. He is not as much of a core play for me as Marvin Jones at the same price point, but I will have lineups with both of these guys in because in my lineups where I'm jamming in top receiver or running backs, I'm going with Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams, and Marvin Jones. Then you can get 3 big running backs that way. But I think the way to go this week is with the wide receivers that we talked about. But what do you think about this game? I'm never in on Derek Carr. Vegas just runs the ball too much. And I don't know who to pair him with. Like, I don't want to play Nelson Aguilar. I just want to play Waller and Josh Jacobs. Hunter Renfrow, I know I talked about how Chargers traded Desmond King, their slot corner, who's a stud. And my boy Chris Harris is on the IR. So you could certainly beat up the Chargers through the inside and the outside, honestly. But do you want to play Nelson Aguilar? Like, for guys asking about Derek Carr, I think it was John up here. Let's find it. Yeah, John Karras. Do you like exposure to Carr now?
No.
All right.
No so Carr for me right now. No Carr. The only thing that I do like on that Oakland, Vegas side would be Darren Waller. Josh Jacobs is really banged up, so I was researching this before we ended up getting on because only saw it one place. I wanted to see if others were reporting the same thing. Apparently, his knees are really banged up after they absolutely ran him into the ground against Cleveland.
30 carries?
Yeah, 31 carries. His knees were already bad before that in the game against Tampa Bay. He barely practiced this week. He had one full practice, one limited one where he was basically wearing not a non-contact jersey, but he wasn't running full drills. So I don't know. I'm slightly worried about Josh Jacobs here, especially at 20% ownership. He's actually coming in higher on than Chase Edmonds right now. I don't know. That ownership really scares me. If it was a 5%, even 10% on Josh Jacobs, I would probably have a lot. But number 2 highest owned running back there. He's coming higher on than Edmonds, Justin Jackson, James Conner, obviously Henry, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, any of these guys. So I'm going to be extremely underweight on Josh Jacobs, ownership and injury concerns combined for that reason. But I'm going to have a ton of Darren Waller. This guy's a lock for 7 or 8 targets week in, week out. So Darren Waller is going to be my one Raider that I have. And I have so much Justin Herbert. We ended up having a little fun yesterday. His passing prop was at 259.5. So if you like free money, make sure you smash the over on that and load up on Justin Herbert today. I think Keenan Allen ends up doing really well. Definitely wheels up on your Mike Williams play. Absolutely love that. And Justin Jackson is one of, if not the best value play on the entire slate, in my opinion. At 4,900, he's involved in the running game, pretty much getting all the carries right now. And he's also had 17 targets in the past 3 weeks. So wheels up. Absolutely love this game. By far my favorite game too on the slate.
Is Albert O getting too cute as a punt tight end? I would say yes, but I mean, he only had one target last week, and that was a shootout. But I was going to say, if the game gets out of hand, they're probably going to run the 12 set with 2 tight ends. But that was when Albert O got all those targets 2 and 3 weeks ago when he had 6 and 7 targets. Tim Patrick was out. So that's when they ran the 12 set. With Tim Patrick in, they're not going to do that. I think it's going to be Patrick, Judy, and Fant. That's where the production's going. I am not playing Alberto. If you play him, you're literally praying for that he gets a touchdown in the red zone when they do go back to the 12 set. So, yeah, it's probably getting too cute. But if you got a feeling, I will never talk you off of a feeling. Best punt under 3,200. Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
Rebuild your lineup and don't get to that.
Yeah.
I don't have anybody in my player pool that's that low. Like Marcus Johnson is popular at that price. That seems disgusting. He's got a cool ass picture though, dude. Look at Marcus Johnson's picture on DraftKings. He just looks out of his mind, just like he's having the time of his life. So for that, I would play Marcus Johnson just because it looks like he's
I think the only player that I have in my player pool under that price is David Moore.
Man, dude, I can never play David Moore, but if anybody's got touchdown equity today, it's David Moore over Marcus Johnson. Let's see here. Try to get cards to you. I think we're going through some questions. Herbert, Connor, Edmonds, Diggs, love. Marvin, love. Judy, Hurst, love. DJ Dallas. Move DJ Dallas to Justin Jackson. And yeah, that's a hell of a lineup, dude. You in with that?
Yeah, I'm just thinking if we...
What about this? What if you went... I'm pretty sure this is actually what my lineup is right now for cash. Instead of Herbert...
over Diggs.
Yep, I went Herbert up to Josh Allen, so that's 6,800 up to 7K. Then you're 200 over the limit, and you drop Diggs down to Julio. Boom. Hurst and cash, though, is that all right?
Yeah, I was just about to touch on that. I know we don't typically run 2 skilled position players from the same team in cash unless it's Lockett, Metcalf against a funnel pass defense. Then that's okay. But
no fan's going to be like 30% owned in cash. You probably got to go there.
Yeah,
right?
you probably have to eat that. But then you have Judy and Fant. So,
well, you could pay down a defense maybe to like New York, and what does that leave you? Like 45 to 5K on receiver?
Texans D is 3,300, 3,200 this week.
31.
I would go down to Arizona. I know it's not much, but it still gets you $200 there.
Get like Shepard in there for if you don't want to. I'm fine. I'm fine if you play Judy and Fent, but usually I don't want to have 2 guys on the same team, especially without the quarterback, because anything Judy's doing, that's 0 points for Noah Fant. So they don't really. In a GPP, that's fine if you're just going full onslaught, but I try to get an option to where every single guy on my team can get points without hurting the production of somebody else on my team in cash. So, I mean, Sterling Shepard and then Noah Fant. If you trust Hurst, I love this lineup right there. I would just move Justin Jackson for DJ Dallas.
Yeah. I
don't want to completely change your build there. And Herbert's fine too. To me, it's Herbert or Allen in cash. Carr, Aguilar, Waller. Oh, God. I can't get behind Aguilar. It makes sense though. I mean, if you trust Carr, go ahead. That'd be the stack I would come up with, or maybe Carr and Hunter Renfrow and Waller. Run it back with Keenan Allen or Justin Jackson and Keenan Allen. You could get 2 guys. You could game stack this one for sure. There's no defense going to be played in this game. We had another question. Where are we at here? All right. What DK cash line you like more? Allen Cooks. I'm assuming that's Dalvin Cook. Allen Cook, Edmonds, Lockett, Judy, John Brown. You can't have John Brown in there in cash, right? No chance.
No.
All right. Yeah, let's get John Brown out of there. Maybe move, try to find a way up to Shepard, I think, is the guy. Get Marvin Jones in cash, right? 100%.
Yeah, that's only a $500 difference, so shouldn't take much to be able to wiggle that lineup around.
Best flex at 4K, 4,500. Oh, fuck, I don't know, man. That's tough. Who do you got for that? Anybody?
4,500.
Yeah, there's like nobody in that range I like.
I really do think Russell Gage has a game here. I really do think Russell Gage has a game if you're absolutely stuck at 4,500, but try and find a way to get up to Jerry Jeudy at 47.
Randall Cobb, I guess, is in that. Yeah, I would try to get to Judy, but Randall Cobb, maybe Laviska Shenault against Houston. You're trusting a rookie quarterback who we've never seen yet. I don't know that stuff. Or Wilson, Cook, Connor, Lockett, Judy, Mooney, Henry, Justin. I would not play Hunter Henry and Justin Jackson in the same line for cash. Mooney, I get that that's fine for a punt. I don't like him in cash, but if the rest of your build is great, which it looks like it is, I don't know, man. It's tough. I would say get down on the quarterback. You already have Lockett, so you don't necessarily need Russell Wilson. You have your Seattle exposure that way. Maybe you can go down to Herbert for 1,000 less, or go down to Drew Lock and see what that does for you. Lamar to Hollywood or Herbert to Williams? I'm going to go Herbert to Williams because that is my gut call this week, as I'm putting a lot of money on Mike Williams this week. I also love Keenan Allen. Like, I don't want to overlook Keenan Allen. You could double stack. I think Herbert, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams is a very powerful stack. Get Waller in there on the other side, or Jacobs if you trust his health. Sounds like Ghost does not. I really don't have a read on Josh Jacobs either. I do have him in game stacks. That's about it. Mooney, we talked about. Mooney or Robinson for the Chiefs? I'd rather go, I think Mooney, man, but I don't know. I hate, like, that's such a tough question. Do we have to get that low? Some people do, so that's what we're here for. What do you got, Mooney or Demarcus Robinson?
Give me Mooney. I do like his shot in this game. Air yards.
See our Washington football team scout. He likes, is that Steven Sims is off the IR for 3K. You could do that. I won't, but you could. What is my main GPP game stack? I think as of right now, it is Herbert, and I don't know, man. I think it's LA and Las Vegas, or it's going to be Seattle Buffalo. I haven't decided yet. I will be tinkering, like I said, up till noon because there's so many good plays, but Marvin Jones will be in that lineup. I'll just tell you that. Ghost, what is your main GPP game stack? I think as of now, though, Dre, it is Las Vegas and the Chargers because I can get exposure to Seattle and Buffalo in that lineup.
Yeah, I'm still tinkering, debating. My main game stack is definitely going to be Chargers with Waller on the way back. I'm just debating 2 out of the 3 between Jackson, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams, who to pair them with, depending on where I want to pay up, etc. And Marvin Jones will 100% be in that lineup, and so will Arizona defense.
Cool. All right, let's get 2 more games in here. Well, let's get the questions, I guess, and then we'll get out. Because we're not going to talk about Pittsburgh, Dallas, right? Just get all the James Conner.
Just play James Conner.
All right, we're skipping that game then. Let's do some more questions. That's more valuable to everybody's time. Julio, Matt Ryan, or Connor Herbert? It's a weird combo. Is it cash?
Not much correlation there. Yeah.
I'm gonna go because I don't like Matt Ryan at all. I'll only just play Julio, so I'm gonna go with Connor Herbert there. For the 3,200 team, Carr. Oh God, you're going with Carr. Philip Lindsay, yeah, and Demarcus Robinson. I don't like that
and Aguilar
at all. I like the Julio Diggs, but I don't like. Like, to me, Waller seems random in this lineup. Actually, no, he doesn't because he's with Carr. I'm sorry. Lindsay, get Jackson in there. Justin Jackson.
In there.
Yeah, get Justin Jackson on the other side of that double stack. Derrick Henry, that's cool. I would move Robinson. Okay, so move Philip Lindsay down to Justin Jackson, and then on the other side of Derrick Henry, I guess go with Mooney. If you have to kick Arizona's defense down, go to New York or something. That's what I would do. If you like this card double stack, which I'm not going to talk you off of, get a guy on the Chargers on the back end. So that game just keeps shooting out and you get points on both sides. But yeah, I would drop Philip Lindsay down to Justin Jackson for sure. And that achieves just that. Olsen shares? No, I'm out on Olsen for sure. Opinions on Evan Ingram. Ghost likes him for the price. I think I'm with that too. Allen, Cook, Edmonds, Lockett, Judy, Jones. That's Marvin Jones. Yes. Hurst, Justin Jackson, Vikings. I would not play the Vikings D there because anytime Marvin Jones scores a touchdown, you're only going to get 2 points for it instead of the 6 because Vikings defense goes down. When Marvin Jones goes up, you want something that just goes one way. Right? You with that?
Oh, yeah. Go from Allen to Herbert and then try and get up to Giants D if you can. I'm fine with playing Herbert and Justin Jackson in cash. I think both of them go off today. So
yeah. Run like Williams and Justin Jackson. There you go. Yeah, I like that. Mike Williams, yeah, for sure. Dez active. Oh God, don't even talk about Dez Bryant. Guy's like 33 years old. Jackson, Lamar, is that, wait, Lamar Jackson?
yeah, L Jackson, I think.
Okay, Lamar Jackson, Connor, Gibson, Cole, Robinson. I don't hate that.
I feel like you have a lot of salary left in that lineup.
Yeah, Chark and Robinson. There's a lot going on there. I have a hard time reading that one. GPP, Mahomes, Edmonds, Justin Jackson, Tyreek Hill, Julio, Lockett, Hurst, Dallas, Atlanta D. It's pretty sexy. Move that. Yeah, I'm fine. If you got to go Dallas and Justin Jackson together, it's for that type of build with just stud wide receivers that Ghost was talking about earlier. Yeah, I'm cool with that. This is my lineup on my biggest cash entry. To me, honestly, guys, you should just run one cash game lineup and put it in all the double ups that you play. In my opinion, you should just have one, make a decision on one lineup, run it everywhere. It either goes great or goes bad. Instead of having some that win, some that lose, it just defeats the purpose of doubling up. In my opinion, Lamar, you do not need to use Lamar in cash, right?
No,
go to Herbert,
no
Josh Allen, Russ, or Locke.
No Lamar, no Dobbins, no Burton.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are the guys that I would try and get out of there. Lamar, you got to go.
This may just be a bit like. Hold on, this may just be his highest entry for a GPP, his biggest cash entry.
Okay.
Lamar, Dobbins, Edmonds. I think you want to get Lamar with a pass catcher or just Lamar naked, because anything Dobbins does is directly correlating against Lamar Jackson, unless you think they hook up on a wheel route or something and get double points that way. But that makes sense there, right?
Yeah, I would go Lamar with Hollywood Brown, or you run Lamar naked, and I wouldn't pair Dobbins with him. He doesn't really have that much of a pass catching role just yet.
This is a pretty good cash lineup. I don't love Deontay Johnson as much, but he's going to be safe. Shepard fan. I just want one big tier receiver in my cash lineup. You're the same, right? I want Julio. I had 7 catch prop. Give me Julio.
I want Julio or Lockett in almost every single lineup.
All right, let's ride. Holy shit, a lot of questions. Love it, guys, though. I do. Let's talk about Arizona, Miami real quick. We'll finish these questions. We'll get out here. I just want all of the Chase Edmonds I can get. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful GPP spot for Kyler Murray. No one's going to play Kyler Murray. He's at 2% ownership. So if you want to go Kyler naked or Kyler with DeAndre Hopkins, run it back with, I don't even know if you need to run it back. I think Miami has a real tough time scoring, but they traded Isaiah Ford. I think we do see a little bit more Gesicki this week as playing the slot position, but I'm not going to get behind that this week. But I will be watching that game extensively just to watch Mike Gesicki run routes, because I love to do that. But I just want all the Chase Edmonds I can get. Larry Fitz at 3,800 is a good spot. I talked about last week how terrible Nick Needham is. He is number 1 to pick on in that 10 cornerbacks that I can't wait to play receivers against. And Cooper Kupp went nuts. That was my one lock of the week last week. That did come true. So if you want to play Larry Fitz, I think you could do that, but I'd rather have Kyler Murray in that lineup and kind of stack this one up. But I don't know. I don't have a good read on this game, so I'm just going with Edmonds and Arizona's defense.
Yeah, Chase Edmonds is by far one of, if not my favorite running back on the entire slate. So I'm going to have a bunch. I do have a lot of Kyler Murray, Hopkins, and Kirk, though, for GPPs. Nobody's playing these guys, and Kyler Murray has yet to put under 24 DraftKings points on a single game, including 2 where he threw for under 200 yards. So the rushing upside is there. Obviously, I'm not playing him with Chase Edmonds in that case, but with Chase Edmonds being so highly owned on a slate like this, I do have some leverage there with Kyler and Kirk or Kyler and D-Hop. No Miami guys for me at all. And I do like the Arizona defense if we're talking about defenses. Buda Baker's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year. The guy's an absolute force back there. And drafting Isaiah Simmons has been a massive help for this Cardinals defense, not only guarding tight ends, but just in general. Guy's just a great playmaker, stocking the box, on the blitz, in coverage. We saw him have a great interception last week. So if we're talking about defenses, I know it's probably the one position that we leave out most of the time. Cards D is by far the highest on my list.
This lineup, yeah, I'm cool with this. For only 15 guy field, Ghost, so you're cool with running Judy and Font together, right? It's a small field. Yeah, I mean,
if
there's any,
probably build it like a cash lineup almost.
Yeah, this
like
is
mini correlation.
Yeah, this is a good cash lineup. I would try. Yeah, I'm cool with this. The one thing I don't want people to do is just jam in Pittsburgh defense. Are they as expensive on FanDuel as they are on DraftKings, or is it a little bit more affordable?
They're the highest price on FanDuel, which is $5,000.
Okay, so it's definitely way more. Okay, so it's way more affordable on FanDuel, but yeah, I wouldn't don't start your lineup with defense. If you can maybe drop the defense and get Judy up to somebody. Otherwise, no, I do. I don't want to get off Judy. He is a core play.
The Texans D is 3,700 on FanDuel, which is a big misprice there. So if you want to get an extra $1,300 in your lineup, go from Steelers D to Texans D.
All right, let's get some questions again for Pittsburgh Dallas. We are only going to play James Conner. If you want to use Big Ben in these pass catchers, it's a great spot too. It's just like Mahomes last week against the Jets. No one really played him because they're like, all right, the game's not going to be competitive. I just don't like the ceiling of Big Ben, but this is a good spot for them too. Let's get to questions. If playing 3 entry max of 400 total entries, should I be playing GPP for sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, get some stacks in there. GPP, Herbert, Justin Jackson, DJ Dallas, Keenan, Marvin Jones, Julio, Evan Ingram, Lockett, Cards D. I don't like DJ Dallas and Lockett in there without Russ or without a Buffalo Bill. What do you think there?
I would try and just come off DJ Dallas if you can. Try to go from work that around where you can go from Ingram to Hurst. I'm okay with running Julio and Hurst in the same lineup. Then you would probably need Judy on the way back though.
It's a pretty good build, though. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it's a good core. I just probably wouldn't play DJ Dallas with Lockett. You're hoping that Lockett ends up getting a ton of receiving yards there, and that's gonna come at the expense of DJ Dallas. But it's a good core. I like it.
Okay. All right. Top 3 quarterbacks for you. Who do you got? Give us the low-owned one too.
Quarterbacks. I'm gonna take Herbert, Russ Wilson, and Kyler Murray.
Kyler, damn, dude. I'm so underweight on Kyler. It scares the hell out of me. It's all good, man. It's all good. I'm going to go Josh Allen as my favorite overall for cash, most likely. Herbert, cash, and GPP. And then give me Lamar. Drew Lock obviously is the punt down, but I don't need to give you that. Actually, no. Russ is my top overall in the model. So I'm going Russ, Allen, Herbert. Lamar Jackson, honorable mention. That's what I'm doing. Russell Wilson, not questioning it. Running backs, who you got?
Chase Edmonds, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Justin Jackson.
All right. I don't need to talk about Justin Jackson. That is our punt down value smash. I'm going to go with Derrick Henry, favorite GPP running back. James Robinson's close for me too on the GPP side. And then Chase Edmonds and James Conner. I love them both. But for GPPs, I think Derrick Henry and James Robinson under 10% is a great spot. Wide receivers. I'm going to go first on this one. Julio, Marvin Jones, and Jerry Jeudy. And then honorable mention to Mike Williams because he's going for 100 and a score. And then again, a great GPP pivot off of Dalvin Cook chalk is going with either Thielen or Justin Jefferson. But yeah, give me all the Marvin Jones I could possibly have.
So cash, I'll take Tyler Lockett, and then GPP, I'll go. Obviously, I love all the guys that you mentioned there, so I'll go a bit more off the board. Give me Will Fuller and Hollywood Brown.
Love it. Tight end, no Fant for me. Cash, I think he's everybody's cash game tight end this week, so it's likely best to go with that. Love Waller on the back end of my Herbert stacks. Dre, I think I'm going with Herbert as my main stack. Herbert, Chargers, I'll probably double team it with Keenan and Mike Williams, or I'm going to fade Keenan and just go Mike Williams because I prefer to get these top tier wide receivers like Julio in there. And then Hayden Hurst, GPP. He's popular, man. He's getting up to 15% owned. I guess you can play him in cash, yeah. I don't think you have to go Noah Fant. If the field's going to be this heavy on Hayden Hurst, that's awesome. He's usually been like 2% owned every week I play him. But yeah, with Ridley out, it makes a ton of sense. All right, tight ends for you.
Waller, Hurst, and Travis Kelce. No one's really no love for Travis Kelce this week in ownership wise. Pretty weird.
Yeah, if you can get to Travis Kelce, your lineup's going to be different just then and there. All right, defense. I hate that shit, but I'll go Texans, Cardinals, Giants. All value plays. You could do a lot with those guys in your lineup.
Yeah, Cards is by far my favorite defense. Then I'll take Giants and Texans. Texans are really affordable on FanDuel, so Texans.
All right, let's get out of here, folks. Thank you all for your support. We love everybody hopping on. It means a lot to us. We love to do this. Aikens, a punt for tight end. I think my punt, I'm just going down to Jonnu Smith and maybe Logan Thomas if I had to go that low, but you could do that. Giants over Washington, I would just stay away from that game if you're betting it, but I don't know. Maybe the Giants win without Golden Tate, the cancer out there being a dick. Justin Jackson or Connor is pretty – whatever answer you go with is going to greatly change your lineup, but I think Connor for sure. Like I love them both, man. Play them together, honestly, right?
Yeah, raw points, you got to take Connor, but there's a $2,000 difference in salary there, right? So point per dollar, give me Justin Jackson, but raw points, give me Connor.
Dallas or Lockett for cash. Lockett, right? All day.
All day.
Yep. And then for DJ Dallas spot, just go to Justin Jackson. I think he is a absolute lock for me in cash as of now. I don't see that changing. Marvin Jones and Julio Jones and Justin Jackson are for sure going to be in my cash line. Will Disley? Oh, no. Don't do that. All right. Thanks, guys. Greatly appreciate it. Good luck to everybody. Send us a ton of screenshots today because I think we're all pretty much as a unit, everybody in the chat, Ghost and I are on the same page. It's either going to go great or it's going to go great. Let's be positive today. Good times. Thank you all. Yeah, appreciate it. Ghost. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, bro.